Okay, here we are, live on the Metal Voice, and back again with us, Les Binks, former Judas Priest drummer, Les Binks priesthood, and wait a second, we got something else to add to that, to your tag, uh, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. Les, what's going on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. So
Okay, yeah. Just saying, how you doing? Are you good? All good?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Still getting over the jet lag, actually.
Okay. All right. Alan was supposed to be on. He was having camera issues and microphone issues, so he told us to march on. Just do the show without him. It's all good. So Alan, if you're out there, there you go. Let's talk about what happened here, and we'll talk about what you're currently doing as well, right? Or maybe we should start off with some dates. Les Binks priesthood. Tell us about the next dates or what's coming up next with your band.
I'm taking a break right now for get Christmas out of the way.
Okay.
Not my favorite time of the year.
No.
So things kick off again around about February next year. We've got
Okay.
some London dates. Then there's a festival we're doing in Norfolk, which we've done a few years ago. We're back there this year. It's called Legends of Rock. And also, there's a thing we're doing out of Sweden next year. It's like
Oh,
a rock cruise thing that comes out of Sweden.
yes.
A few festivals throughout the summer, but I'm also waiting to see what KK's band might be doing this
Oh.
because there might be some guest spots for me on that as well. Um, I haven't had any tour dates yet, but I'm waiting to see what develops.
All right. So you know what? Since you brought up KK, I'll ask you about this. First album, we last time we spoke, first album was released by KK. The whole COVID thing happened. I think you hurt your arm or your hand.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah, I had a wrist injury. Yeah,
You had a wrist injury, so that kind of went away, right, for the time being. But
yeah.
now, yeah,
It took several months to heal up, but it's they're all working fine now.
good. Happy to hear. Okay, so KK told us. Well, I've interviewed KK a few times. Me and Alan interviewed him, and he told us as he was kind of finishing the first album, he was already working on a second album. So I'm assuming you weren't part of the second album. Is that it?
Well, I chatted to him about this. I think there were problems uh, regarding getting management sorted out and getting tour dates set up. So he just decided to press on with album number two. Now the thing is that there's another drummer involved in the band now.
Yeah.
So uh, I presume he's played on this album as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time that I would be involved would be through live situation um, as a guest performer. So as I say, until there's some dates that are like, actually confirmed, I'll have to wait and see what develops there.
So just to clarify for everybody out there, if KK goes on tour as KK's priest, you've been offered some guest slots depending on the situation, correct?
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to hear. I'm happy to hear that, actually. I'm very excited about that. So hopefully, I'd like to see you on more than just a few guest dates. So, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this would like to see you on more than just a few guest dates. So let's push it so it can happen. That's what I say, right? When you're playing with when you're playing with Les Binks Priesthood, what kind of set list can people expect typically?
Um, well, a lot of it's based on the Unleashed on the East album, the
Okay.
live album. So a lot of material from that. Uh, Plus, there's songs from um, the Stained Class album and, of course, the Hellbent for Leather album. Um, and also, I do a few, because when I joined the band, I actually joined for the Sin After Sin tour.
Mm-hmm.
I would,
Hold on, pause. There's Alan. Alan, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
That
we
was
can.
weird.
First, Les couldn't get on, then you couldn't get on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Les. We're just talking about Alan. Um, what Les's sort of priesthood, what they are currently playing in their set list. Sorry to cut you off, Les. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I won't go through all the songs.
No.
But basically, it's all from my era with the band. I know I don't go beyond that. So that's what that's what the idea was. I kept getting asked by various people, why don't you play some Priest stuff, whatever. And initially, the band was just a one-off, a bit like KK's band. That was put together initially with Ripper as a one-off situation, then developed into what it is now. The same thing happened with the Priesthood band. I put that together initially just for a one-off show, but we had to go back on all the albums, and I had to sort of listen to everything again, virtually relearn what I'd played on all that stuff. So we had to do quite a lot of rehearsals to get it all tight and to get it together. So after we did that one-off, there was a lot of interest in us doing some more shows. So it kind of spiraled a bit from that. And, it's still, I mean, all the guys in my band are all working with other situations as well. And so it's like I said, when you get really good musicians, they're always in,
Yeah.
And so I have to contact everyone and make sure they're available before I can commit to taking on shows.
Okay. All right. We also talked about Alan about KK's pre-second album, if he was on it or not. And Les was telling us that it's kind of like, there was another drummer involved, but he will get some guest slots on KK's tour if he does a tour.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to put you up to speed. That's all.
No, I mean, we interviewed you, a while ago, but the fan reaction to having you on the show was huge, Les. I mean, it was great to see.
That's nice. That's nice to hear.
All right. So whip it out. Let's see it. And I mean this in a nice way. Bring it out.
Wait a minute. Rephrase that.
Whip it out.
You might want to rephrase that.
I think you're referring to this.
Yeah.
It's heavy, isn't it?
It is.
Congratulations again.
The base of it's very heavy, yeah. So it's good for lifting weights, build up some muscles in your arm.
Or an assault weapon.
Yeah. But a little souvenir from Los Angeles.
Paperweight. Who, Alan, unless you have a question first, when you first got the call, it's huge. When you first got the call, Les, like, how did it happen? Who told you that, hey, was it KK who called you? Was it management who called you? Was it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame who called you? How did you get that initial call that you were going to be inducted?
Well, if you look back over the last, there were actually 3 years ago, I think, the band was nominated. This is the third time that we were nominated.
Yeah.
And the first 2 times we didn't get accepted. So it looked like we weren't going to get in at all. And then, of course, this year we did. So it was a case of third time lucky.
Yes.
But I heard about it through, actually, a lot of it through the media, social media and things. And I heard that it involved me as well, and Dave Holland, who's no longer with us, and KK, of course. I don't see how they could possibly leave him out. He was such an integral member of the band.
Exactly.
And helped to get the whole thing started in the first place. So then I got a contact from the band's management, and they put me in touch with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people who were organizing that, and it just all sort of spiraled from there.
Okay. Right.
I mean, those induction speeches, there were like 6 of you on stage. I think it was the shortest in the history of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, especially yours, Les. I mean, the Brummies aren't known for being emotional or anything. I think it was proven that night.
Yeah, well, these things always get heavily edited, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I think the show was originally supposed to be just over 3 hours for TV, and it actually went on for a lot longer, over about 4.5 hours, I think. And so they decided to make it longer as a result, but they still had to do a lot of heavy editing. And we were pre-warned not to make long speeches because we had a limited time slot, and it probably wouldn't get all aired anyway if we went on too long. So I deliberately kept it straight to the point.
And it's good you have, because those long-winded speeches by some people, right? Blah 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 blah, right?
Well, I think on a lot of these award ceremonies, people can rant on for ages, and just bores everyone to tears, So.
When was the last time you spoke to the Judas Priest band as we know it today? Was that like?
Well,
I'm not sure if you answered this question before in the past with me and Alan, but
of course I've known Richie for a long time before I joined Priest. We actually worked together for quite a while, and I think I met him when he was about 22.
Wow!
And he was playing phenomenal then, So I and Richie now lives in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So, he used to live in London, obviously, where he's from. So I don't see so much of him these days. And of course, he's always on tour or whatever. So it was good to see Richie again. And of course, the other guys in the band I haven't seen for many, many years. I was happy to see them all. We all got along great, and we all enjoyed, doing the show together. We had a rehearsal a couple of days before on a Thursday. The show went out on Saturday, so we had a rehearsal, and we probably spent more time together then, backstage, and so on. And we actually did on the night because it was all a bit, hectic on the night. So it was great. The whole experience was really good.
It was nice to have Richie on stage with you guys when you were doing induction speeches, because he's been a big part of the band for the last 10 years now, easily. So
yeah, a lot of the fans, are disappointed that he wasn't inducted, but it's not nothing to do with the band or it's to do with the way that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You have to have been around a long time, and I've been around a long time, much longer than Richie has. So you have to. I think they go back about at least 25 years, and you have to, played on records and toured, and contributed to the writing and generally to the band's success. So that's the way they decide on who's going to be inducted or not. So it's nothing to do with the band's decision. It's all down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
What about, like, for me, Tim Ripper Owens? I mean, he helped the band survive through the sort of rough years, right? If it wasn't for him, the band, I'm not sure if it would still be around today, right? Those were rough years, and he was on the 5 years he was in the band. Was there any feeling, like, I don't know, maybe between you and other, like, he should have been inducted? Like, I think he should have. Like, I mean, I think I understand the logic on one side, but the logic on the other side, I don't know if it makes sense.
Well, again, it probably boils down to that 25-year period again, which would have excluded him as well. So, just exactly the same situation that Richie, it's nothing to do with us or the band or who. It's all down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the way they work set their own system up to suit themselves. So, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. It would have been nice. It would have been nice to see Tim. I'm not like, has it been 25 years, Alan, like since he was in the band?
I don't know.
Do the math. Somebody get a calculator.
In the mid '90s. No, maybe just a little short. I would think maybe. But hey, being on stage, with Scott Travis. I mean, how tall is that guy? Because standing on stage with you.
Yeah. He's
not that KK's 6'2", but I mean, you guys are dwarves next to him. It almost looks like,
Yeah, he's a tall chap. Yeah, very tall and lean.
And playing with him, what's your impression of him as a drummer?
He's great. We have sort of a different approach to playing, slightly different styles, but it's probably I'm not sure, but it's probably the first time he's worked with another drummer, and me too. I worked with percussionists, conga players and things like that, but never with another kit drummer. And also, I think he plays a lot to a click track, even in live situations. And that the songs that were put together were a medley of 3 songs.
Yeah.
And I think they've edited out the first one, I think, because we actually started with We Got Another Thing Coming, and then went into Breaking the Law, and then Living After Midnight. And the thing was, we were only allowed just over 8 minutes to perform those. So the only way to do that is to work with a click track to get the timing right, so that it falls exactly within that time frame. So I had to use Scott as my click track, And I think the most important thing is that the two drummers lock in together, To be perfectly honest, those songs don't need to be played by 2 drummers, But on this occasion, it was a special occasion, all seemed to work out okay in the end. That's the main thing.
What were some of the challenges doing it that way for you? Like you said, you've never particularly played with another drummer in a kit before. So what did you find a little challenging about that?
Well, it was such a short, it wasn't like we were doing a complete show. We're just doing a very 8-minute slot. So you're not going to get really into breaking out in a sweat. So really all I was doing was concentrating on locking in with Scott, and I let him set the time changes because he's working with a click. I wasn't. And and the songs that we did were, in terms of the drum tracks on that, fairly straightforward rock tracks, not too much in the way of double bass drums or anything like that.
And that was one of my questions. How do you find the music since you left the band? Like you said, it's straightforward rock. Those are 3 songs that prove that. But what was your impression of playing those songs that are, technically you weren't in the band, and I don't know if you've ever played them before. So how did the music change for Priest before with you and after you?
Well, I think the album they made after I left, which is British Steel, that was the album that contained some of the songs that we played, Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight. I think those songs in particular helped to break the band in America. It's because the time I was in the band, it was very important to get FM radio play in America for a band to break big. And then when we got into the 80s, we had the emergence of MTV. and that became a major platform for, making or breaking a band. So those songs became hit singles both in the UK and I think in America. Um, and they're fairly straightforward rock, tunes. They're not sort of speed metal or anything like that. And I never really heard the album in its entirety. That particular album, only the tracks that came off it. Then, throughout the 80s, there was the emergence of a lot of other bands that were playing, death metal, speed metal, thrash, so I think, the competition was changing. Probably a desire to get more. I don't think Dave Holland was particularly into using double bass drums. If he did, I never heard much of it. But I think with the emergence of all these other metal bands, they were getting heavier, and the emphasis on double bass drums was becoming more apparent as well. So after Dave left, I think they wanted a guy who actually played a lot of double bass drum stuff, and that's where Scott fitted in.
Right.
Was there, when you first met the guys, there must have been that awkward first few minutes, right? Hey everyone,
or maybe not,
or maybe not, or maybe not. Hey everyone, it's me, Les. I'm sure there was that little bit of tension. I mean, I couldn't see after those many years or maybe it was a very celebratory sort of a feeling. I don't know.
Not in my case, certainly not. No.
Okay.
I never had any particular problems with any of the guys in the band. The problems I had was with the management that the band had back then, not their current management, but the management that they had back then. And within 6 months of me leaving the band, the management they had then went into liquidation.
Oh.
And so I didn't have any problem with the guys. So when I met them again, it was good to see them all, especially
good.
Glenn. Glenn, as you
Yes.
know, has had some health problems. So it was nice to see him, and the fact that he was able to get up and play was great.
Yeah.
And reading Rob Halford's latest book, I mean, being a fan since the 80s and seeing, the dual guitars, there's a little bit of surprise for me to see that whatever, misunderstanding or however you want to phrase it between Ken and Glenn dated back so far back, according to Rob. Was that the same for your time in the band? Or was always that little competitiveness or friction between the two?
But friction between what, sorry?
Between Ken and Glenn?
Well, I think that's, it's probably been all over social media and stuff like that. It's not something I particularly wanted to get into.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know Ken had certain issues that he wasn't happy about, but that's all been out in the open for some time. Whether that ever improves to the point where they get on again, I have no idea.
I remember reading we were reading Rob Halford's book recently, and he was talking about Unleashed in the East, right? And I guess that's the time when you decided to part, right?
Wasn't getting paid.
Yeah, you weren't getting paid, and we talked about that last time we interviewed you. But I guess to my surprise, in Rob's book for Unleashed the East, when he talks about redoing all the vocals, he says it, he says it in his book. I mean, did you know at the time that he was redoing all his vocals, or that you were already gone from the band by then?
Well, I was asked to go and see the band's manager was a guy called Mike Dolan at the time. And so I went into the office to see him. He said, "Do you want to discuss the band's, next move?" Because we just finished a long tour,
Yeah.
and we were taking a break, a well-earned break. And normally, what we would do, we would take some time off to start writing new material and get back into the studio, make the next album.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to remember that when you've been touring for several months at a time, there's not a lot of variation in the set that you're playing. And so it's kind of good, once you've finished the tour, to take a break and start thinking about creating new, fresh material. But the manager said to me, "The guys are all down at Startling Studios in Ascot, which is Ringo Starr's studio,
Mm-hmm.
with Tom Allen." It was the first time that he'd worked with Tom Allen as producer. And he said they'd been listening to the tapes from Japan. And he said it all sounds really good. And he said, "We think that could be the next album." Well, of course, the first thing that entered my head was, why the hell wasn't I invited down to the studio?
Yeah. Alarm bells.
My opinion was irrelevant, obviously, So, it was all part of the whole thing about being treated, like a second class citizen,
Mm-hmm.
and so the first time I heard that album, or heard the recordings, was when the album came out on vinyl. So the drum tracks weren't altered; they're all exactly as they were played live.
So we've confirmed that your drums have not been tampered with, right?
No, I never
We
even
confirmed
entered the studio. I never entered the studio.
Okay, all right.
So I couldn't tell you what what patching up was done.
Okay.
I wasn't there to witness it. All I know is that I've listened to that several times, obviously, and to me it all sounds, just as we played it on the night. I think that Rob wasn't entirely happy with his vocals on it because he had some kind of throat infection or cold at the time, so he wanted to patch up some of the vocals. I doubt if he did them all.
He did them all. Apparently, from his book, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, he said what he did is he took the mic and he sang the whole show in one shot. At least that's from my memory. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong.
According to his book, Rob said that he did have a cold. He wasn't happy with the vocals, and he kind of recorded them all. So he didn't mention anything about any other parts being replaced.
No.
It was strictly his vocals. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole sort of, now, did they punch in certain parts of his vocals from that recording? Perhaps, right? We don't know.
Well, I don't know. Unless I was in the studio at the time, I couldn't really comment. But when you say that you've redone anything, whether it's vocals or guitar solos or whatever, then you get accused of it's not a real live album, which is rubbish. It's apart from, there's very few live albums that any band has made that aren't spruced up in the studio to make the best of them. Why wouldn't you? So I don't think there's anything new about that. To me, it's predominantly all live, apart from anything they've done with Rob's vocals to improve on that.
Yeah. All right.
And of course, Rob has met. I haven't read those comments that you just made
Mm-hmm.
about what he said in his book, but if it sounds like he's not trying to.
No, he's and you know what? Hats off to Rob for being transparent. right?
Yeah.
And hats off. The people knew, but he kind of spoke a little more in depth about it. Like we knew about it, but he said he ran the whole vocals for the whole show. He did them in one take, live in the studio. Now, what did they keep and what didn't they keep in the mix? We don't know, but it's okay. He was transparent. It's all good.
Yeah, well, it's probably down to Tom Allen in the end. What
That's right. Yeah.
was producing it.
Maybe there was a couple of live moments that he sounded brilliant, right? They would have kept that, right? So it is what it is. Alan, what else you got?
No, I just congratulations again. Well deserved. I'm glad you were inducted. Your time in the band was definitely just as important as anybody else's, because those are the stepping stones that lead to, like you said, to the breakthrough in the U.S. and England with the FM radio, and so well deserved, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
I think Less Stained Class is the fans' favorite 70s album from Judas Priest, if we were to sort of summarize, right? Definitely the number one album from the 70s. At least for me it is. So
yeah. Well, when I was in Los Angeles for this event, there were a lot of fans around the hotel, and they had masses of albums, vinyl albums, and I think a lot of it's been re-released on vinyl. There seems to be a resurgence in vinyl again. So yeah, a lot of them had that album, and I've read a lot of comments that people have made about it. I think when you think about it, the '70s Priest, the music was different to it developed into something even heavier later on, I think. I mean, the first few albums they made were a mixture of several influences, a little bit of a little bit of prog rock in there at some points, but I'm prejudiced, but I like the earlier stuff, the stuff that we did. Because I don't think they write that sort of style anymore.
Here's my last question to you. So you meet the band. It's a nice meeting with them. Did you have a beer with them? Did you hang out a little bit with them, mix and mingle? I mean, were you sort of reconnecting, sort of in a sense, right? That friendship, and what happened there?
Well, the first time I met them on this occasion was at the rehearsal, which was at the venue on Thursday before the show, and there were some dressing rooms and whatever backstage. So we sort of, that's when we actually had the most time together. And let me think. So there was, we had sort of different schedules, put it like that. So we weren't. That was the only time that we had an opportunity to all be together at the same time. So it was very limited.
Mm-hmm. So it was like the KK camp with you, and then the Priest camp, sort of separated in a sense, right? Like amicably. I mean, it was sort of like two groups. Like, you were hanging with KK, I assume, right?
Well, KK and I flew out together.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah.
Heathrow Airport in London, and we flew back together. But you got to realize, of course, that the band was actually on tour.
Yes.
So we I think myself, Glenn, and KK, we had to fly over from the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just for the event, whereas the others were coming from some other part of America where they happened to be
Right.
on tour.
Yeah.
And myself and KK were joining them just for that event. So you had the current lineup of the band as it is today, and myself and KK joining them for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah.
So as I say, the only time we had any socializing or time together was probably at the rehearsal session.
All right.
And the burning question that I have here is, when you and KK flew back, that beautiful statue, was that checked, or was it held on to you in the plane? Did you put it in baggage, or you brought it on the plane as a carry-on?
Did it have its own seat?
When you think about it,
That's right. That's a good question, Alan.
put that in a suitcase, and then
Yeah.
the baggage handler gets onto it, and you know the sort of reputation they had. So I thought, well, this little bit at the top, this little gold disc thing on the top,
Mm-hmm.
is probably the most fragile thing that would get broken. So this all got wrapped up, bubble wrap and all kinds of stuff, just to make sure it got home in one piece, which it did, luckily enough.
So they mailed it to you. That's what you're saying. It was on the flight with you.
It went in my suitcase.
Okay.
Oh, so
you
you
carry
did check
on.
your
You
bag.
carry on, not your check-in.
You carry on your checked baggage. That's what I want to know.
I think you misunderstood the question. Did you bring it on the plane with you, or did you let them put it in the baggage baggage section?
It went in the. I went in with the baggage. Yeah.
Brave man.
But as I say, it was very well protected.
Okay.
I wouldn't have put it in as it is.
Yeah.
It would.
I'd be more worried about them losing it than anything.
I would have just wrapped it in my, underwear and socks, probably.
Do you have any Les? Do you have any new music? Are you working on any new music?
Sorry.
Are you working on any new music?
Not at the moment. I'm taking a break over because it's so close now to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to put my feet up for a while and chill out. In the new year, we have been asked to make an album, and I'll wait and see. I'm not going to sort of go too far down the line to commit to anything right now, but there's possibility.
So your rates have gone up now because you've been inducted. So it's good. It's good timing. It's a pleasure, Les, and we're really happy for you. We think it's well deserved, to be inducted. Along with Priest, I'm really happy that they've included you and they've appreciated your input into the band at that time period.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think we've had many inductees into the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, but I think this is the first to have somebody on the show from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a little confusing for people when they watch it because, although it's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we had Dolly Parton in it this year.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we had Eminem.
That's right.
So it seems to cover a wide genre of musical styles.
Yeah, a lot of people say it should be called the Music Hall of Fame, just to sort of keep it simple.
Well, I think Judas Priest is only maybe the third metal band to be inducted.
You guys stole the show. That's definitely it showed that people are hungry to see some real rockers get in, right? And you guys definitely stole the show. If you ask me, and maybe because I'm a metalhead, maybe I'm biased. I don't know, but it's kind of like stained glass with you. You're only gonna that's what you like, right? I mean, of course, me too. I think you guys I don't think Dolly stole the show. I think you guys stole the show. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe Dolly and Rob.
Dolly's doing a metal album now, so
yeah. Apparently,
you influenced everybody that night.
That's right.
be good to hear Dolly making a metal album, wouldn't it? You know. But I think I need to get more metal bands into that. I think the first one was probably Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
They were inducted, and then of course Metallica, Judas Priest. I can't think of anyone else.
Deep Purple,
Deep Purple.
Scorpions.
Funny, you know, I did a show in France with a Priesthood band, and it was with Ian Pace.
Oh wow!
And one of the questions I did some interviews before the show, and one of the questions they asked me was how much competition between Judas Priest and Deep Purple in terms of heavy metal bands. And I said, well, funny enough, I never really thought of Deep Purple as a heavy metal band. You know, I thought it was, and so I mentioned this to Ian, and he agreed with me. He said, no, he said, hard rock. He described it as hard rock band. So
yeah, I think the competition between Priest has always been with Maiden, Iron Maiden, and Judas Priest. You know, that's always been the sort of who.
If you think about how the metal music came about, the earlier bands like Led Zeppelin, you know, they could sound really heavy and riffy and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And yet they had a lot of acoustic music.
Yeah.
But you know, I said I suppose a lot of people who are into metal music would probably like, you know, Led Zeppelin too, you know, and Deep Purple. But when you think about the metal music today, there's certain bands that fit that category, I think, better than they do, you know.
Rob Reiner from Anvil, he said, I don't play heavy metal. I play swing with my drums, but really fast. So it's, so, you know, he goes, I don't play metal at all. I just play swing really fast. So, you know, people think it's metal. I mean, when you think of Stained Glass, it was probably one of the first real speed metal albums. Not to say that Deep Purple didn't have any fast songs, but in that sort of direction in terms of drumming, I would say. I'm not sure. Were you playing double bass on a Stained Glass? I don't remember if you were. You weren't.
Exciter is the track you're thinking of.
Yeah.
That opened up one side one, I think.
Yeah.
That has a double bass drum intro. And
Exciter is a fast song. Yeah.
Pretty much all the way through the song.
Yeah.
A lot of people cite that as the beginnings of speed metal. You know. There are a lot of bands that came along afterwards, metal bands, were quite influenced by that album and that song in particular.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're making a record, you're not really thinking that far ahead. You're not thinking, is this going to influence anyone in the future?
You started a genre and you didn't even know it.
Well, you know, you just that came about, that particular song, Exciter, just came about from a sound check.
There you go. You love it.
I was just, they were getting the drum sound together, and I just got this idea in my head, and I just launched into what eventually became the drum intro to Exciter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped, and Len picked up on it, and he said, play that again, Les, you know. So I did, and then he joined in with the guitar riff, you know, and the song kind of developed from there on. We didn't have a finished song at that point, obviously, but that was how that began.
That's the bad thing about how they sort of reference songwriting. You know, they'll never look at the drum patterns. They'll never look at, you know, sort of the structure that led to the bigger idea as a sort of songwriting, right? Like you kind of wrote that song, right? But I would think that you weren't credited in the sense that the traditional sense of crediting, lyrics and melody, right? So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, just the way things are. You know, you play every member of a band plays an important part in creating the song structure and how the end result turns out. So, I mean, if you think of the guitar solos, that's the guitarist's input on that song.
Yeah.
For instance, I wrote Beyond the Realms of Death. I wrote that song.
Mm-hmm.
Along with Rob. He wrote the lyrics, came up with all the lyrics to it and the title. But I was always impressed with the guitar solo that Glenn came up with in the middle, yeah. And that added a lot to the song. But he doesn't get credited for that. Yeah. The song was credited to me and Rob.
Yeah.
So quite often, I mean, in a song like Exciter, obviously the drum intro, the drum part plays a strong role in the way that the song is presented, and that was largely down to me in that respect. But I'm not writing the melody, and I'm not writing the lyrics, So it's a joint effort.
No, I agree. Who's got a question in our final, I guess, few minutes here? Who's got a question for Les? I know there's people watching, there's people texting in that I'm ignoring, but who's got a question for Les? That's really think of a cool question.
Les, I got one while we're waiting here.
Yeah.
Les, we spoke to numerous drummers, and one of the main constant with the discussions is Ian Pace as a drummer. Would you like? You said you played with him in France. Would you like to comment on his drumming and his influence on the many drummers in the early 70s?
Yeah, I loved Ian's drumming with Deep Purple. In fact, he was one of my main influences at the time.
Mm.
But when I started playing, we've been through the era with the Beatles and Stones and all that. But then you had Jimi Hendrix come along, Cream, then Led Zeppelin, and of course John Bonham has been, one of my favorite drummers as well. Ian Pace with Deep Purple. So those, in terms of the rock drummers, those were the main influences that I had, listening to those bands. And later on, I got into people like Billy Cobham, who came from the jazz fusion kind of side of things. But there's so many phenomenal players out there. And if you move from one style of music to another, you'll find drummers doing something slightly different in each genre. And so it's good to listen to a wide spectrum of music, because you learn stuff from even though you might not wish to be playing in a band necessarily playing that particular style of music, there are certain elements that you can take from say a funk band or whatever, and incorporate that into the rock side of things or metal side of things, and it gives you a much wider musical vocabulary to pick things out from.
Les, here's a question from K-Man. Do you know that you were mentioned in Neil Kay's new book? I'm not even sure what you're mentioned as. Someone just wrote the question. Neil Kay's been on the show a few times, I guess, but you have been mentioned in his book, and I'm assuming it's a positive thing. So, when's the last time you saw Neil Kay?
I don't know. I haven't read any comments that he's made, so I don't really know.
Have you ever met Neil Kane in the past from the Soundhouse?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. All right. Well, apparently he wrote about you. And Neil's a pretty cool dude, so I'm assuming it was some really positive notes.
I hope so.
Be back to Port. Does Les ever be back to Portadown these days? I'm assuming that's a place, right? In
That's called Portadown. Yeah.
Portadown. Where's that?
It's a little town in County Armagh in Northern Ireland. It's about 20 miles south of Belfast.
Okay.
That's where I was born and grew up there.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you can tell from my accent, but I moved to London in the early 70s.
You're kind of like, it's a mix. Your accent's a little mixed there, right? So it's somewhere between British and Irish.
Yeah, it's probably mellowed out a lot more over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I was from. That's where I was from, and I still have family there. So I usually take a trip there, maybe once or twice a year, just to catch up with family and touch base with everybody again.
All right. What does Les drink for beers?
Guinness.
There you go.
You can't be Irish and not drink Guinness.
So no Murphy's.
Murphy's, yeah, I'll have a Murphy's from time to time, yeah.
Okay. What types of sticks from Chris Tag? What types of sticks, cymbals, drums do you prefer? Okay, this could be like a long answer here, but go ahead.
What type of sticks and
Sticks, cymbals, and drums do you prefer?
Well, I have my own sticks made by the London Drumstick Company.
Okay.
So they've been very good. So they make my signature sticks, which I have here somewhere. Let's have a look. Yeah.
Look at that.
That's you can see those.
Hey, look at that.
Those are my sticks. The drums I've used over the years, many different manufacturers, many different drums. The things I have most of all are snare drums. I mean, most drummers have several snare drums to choose from, each one with its own character. I have quite a few solid shell, 6.5-inch deep snare drums that are made from steam bent one piece maple. There's a chap called Johnny Craviato. There's an American chap, I don't know if you've heard of him, Craviato, and he's passed away now, unfortunately. But he made some fantastic custom-made snare drums, and this company still exists today. They still make them. So I've got a few of his, which he signed inside. And I played all kinds of drum manufacturers on all kinds of kits over the time. When I was,
what do you think about the snare drum on Saint Anger? that's a joke. Metallica Saint Anger. What do you think about the snare drum on Saint Anger? It's okay, you don't have to answer that.
Snare drum on what?
On the album Saint Anger by Metallica.
I haven't heard it.
Oh, sounds like a trash can.
Oh well, yeah, and somebody made a comment about the new album about the bass drum sound on it. I don't know. I haven't heard that either. But,
yeah. Fraser saying, "Have you ever thought about doing a drum video? You know, a drum video online. You know, like those drum video instructional videos."
There's so many out there, and I've never done a drum clinic either.
Oh, really?
You know, it's just I'm more interested in playing with musicians and playing, you know, in a band setting. You know, I'm nothing against anything like that. You know, it's just it just didn't feel right for me, and for some reason.
Okay. Now, Siegel saying, would Les consider writing a book, like an autobiography?
I have thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. I won't say yes for definite or no for definite. It's a possibility maybe one day.
Okay.
Never say never.
All right. On that note, we appreciate everybody's questions. We got as many as we could in there. I know there's a lot of statements, a lot of positive stuff, but we'll let you go, Les. Appreciate your time, and congratulations, Alan. What do you got to say?
Nope. Congratulations again, and great to have you. I think for the second time, right, Jim?
Yeah. Well, we'll have you again for a third time.
Great to talk to you all again, and good to see you all.
You bet.
We got there eventually.
Yeah, hopefully.
Talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Les.